All right, today we're jumping into a fantastic literary showdown. It's a classic tale, really. Two incredibly influential critics going head-to-head over one very famous and, you could say, very controversial novel.
So, the book at the center of all this, it's none other than Charles Dickens's Hard Times. And the question that basically tore the literary world in two was, well, it was pretty simple but also really profound. Is this book a misunderstood masterpiece, or is it a rare stumble from one of the greatest storytellers ever?
Okay, so first things first, let's set the stage. Let's talk about the book that became the battleground for this whole thing.
And this isn't just a simple argument about whether Hard Times is a good book or not. Oh no, it's way bigger than that. This whole debate gets at something much deeper. It's about what we as readers expect from a novel. And it really makes you ask that huge question. What actually makes a piece of literature great, anyway?
All right, let's bring in our first contender. This is the argument for the novel, and it was championed by a critic who looked at Hard Times and saw something incredibly profound, something he called a powerful moral fable.
So in this corner, we've got F.R. Leavis, and believe me, this guy was an absolute giant in 20th century literary criticism. He basically picked up Hard Times, a book that, honestly, a lot of people had kind of written off, and made this bold claim that it was actually one of Dickens's most important works.
See, for Leavis, this wasn't your typical sprawling Dickens story full of twists and turns. Not at all. He saw it as something else entirely. Something tighter, more focused, almost poetic. And it had a dead serious purpose. He called it a moral fable for the new industrial age.
So Leavis's whole case really rested on the book's deep moral seriousness. He argued it was this powerful, biting critique of a society that cared more about facts and money than about people. He loved its tight, controlled structure. And those characters, he said, you're missing the point if you think they're supposed to be realistic. They were never meant to be. They're symbols, each playing a part in this huge moral argument.
But, as you can imagine, not everyone was buying it. So let's turn to the other corner, where we have a challenger who looked at the exact same book and saw something completely different.
And that challenger is the author and critic J.B. Priestley. Now, Priestley read Hard Times, and he basically said, okay, I get the big ideas, but it's missing something. It was missing that special ingredient that makes Dickens, Dickens.
And Priestley's critique really cuts right to the chase. He was looking for that classic Dickens magic, right? That warmth, that incredible sense of humanity, those weird, wonderful, unforgettable characters, and of course, the humor. And when he read Hard Times, it just felt cold. It felt empty compared to Dickens's other work.
And really, if you want to boil it down, their biggest disagreement was about the characters. It's fascinating, isn't it? Leavis sees these carefully crafted symbols making a moral point. Priestley just sees flat, lifeless puppets. What Leavis called artistic control and focus, Priestley basically called a failure of the classic Dickensian imagination.
So what is really going on here? Because this debate, it's about so much more than just one book. What we're really seeing is a clash between two totally different ideas of what literature is even for. Which, of course, leads us to the million-dollar question. So, who was right? Was it Leavis or Priestley? Well, here's the thing. The most interesting answer isn't about picking a winner. It's about digging a little deeper and understanding what each of them was even looking for to begin with.
Because when you get right down to it, this wasn't just a simple disagreement. It was a fundamental clash of values. Leavis cared most about moral depth and tight artistic structure. So through that lens, Hard Times is an absolute masterpiece. But Priestley, he valued humanism, a good story, and characters that leap off the page. And by that standard, the book just didn't measure up. They were basically judging the same exact book using two completely different rulers.
And what's so great about this whole thing is that it ultimately flips the question right back to us, to you and me. It makes us stop and think, wait, what do I value when I sit down to read a book? So, what's the big takeaway here? I think it's this. Literary greatness isn't some fixed scientific fact. It's always up for debate. Any critic's opinion is always shaped by their personal values. So if you really want to understand an argument about a piece of art, you have to first figure out what that person thinks is most important. And that really brings it all home. Think about it. When you pick up a classic novel, what are you hoping to find? Are you on Team Leavis, searching for that profound moral seriousness? Or are you on Team Priestley, looking for that humanist joy and unforgettable characters? What does it for you?
What makes a book a true masterpiece in your eyes?